Hey, what's up, guys? We are here in Darmstadt, Germany. Behind me is the artist colony of Darmstadt, and we're gonna go check it out. At the gentle sloping hill east of the city of Darmstadt in Germany, where people formerly tend to their vineyards, the ruling house built an English-style park in the 1800s. The garden with its curving path was open to all residents, and the park was named after Princess Matilde of Bavaria, and together with her husband, Grand Duke Ludwig III, had the garden furnished with garden cottages and pavilions. The park underwent change around 1877 to 1880, where the municipal water reservoir was built at the highest point of the hill. And in 1899, the Russian chapel, which had been erected on behalf of Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. The Tsar has married Alexandra of Hesse, the Grand Duke Ernst Ludwig's sister, in 1894, and needed an Orthodox church for his visits to his wife's hometown. Its multicolored paint, richly decorated facade, and extensively gleaming golden tower domes still characterize the image of Matildan Hohe today. The Grand Duke Ernst Ludwig Hesse Darmstadt was a patron of the arts, theater, music, and literature, and thus founded the Artist Colony at Matildan Hohe in 1899. The Duke called the first 7 artists to the city, who were required to remain active in Hesse for at least 3 years. In exchange, he bestowed upon them the possibility to be able to work as an artist without material concerns. Along with architects Joseph Maria Olbrich and Patrice Huber, the painters Hans Christiansen, Paul Bruck, and Peter Behrens, as well as the sculptors Rudolf Bosselt and Ludwig Habrich, worked in the colony. First exhibition, 1901, a document of German art. Joseph Maria Olbrich was the first artistic director who designed the first exhibition of the colony, with the idea to create an artistic synthesis. A focus of the exhibition was to design individual houses for the members and to display them to the public as a fully executed and furnished buildings. For these plans, Ernst Ludwig provided reasonable conditions to secure the property and to finance the buildings. It was only in this way that some of the artists were able to afford independent homes. So here are the houses, all designed by Olbrich except for the Peter Behrens house. Wilhelm Dieter's house. He was the manager of the artists' colony. The house survived the war and was restored to its original appearance in 1991-92. The building became the home of the German-Polish Institute in 1996. The large Gluckert House. It was the largest in the exhibition. Gluckert was a maker of furniture and an important promoter of the artists' colony. The house was partially destroyed in the Second World War and then restored in the 1980s. Today, it is used by the German Academy for Language and Poetry. The small Gluckert House or Rudolf Bosselt House. This house was also designed by Olbrich. The sculptures on the facade are the work of Rudolf Bosselt. Bosselt began to work on the house but was not able to cover the cost of construction. Gluckert thus took over the house and paid for its completion. Its present appearance approximates its original form. Peter Behrens' house. Behrens was a self-taught architect and designed his own house. It's the single most expensive house in the exhibition, with a total cost of 200,000 marks. Behrens never lived in it, choosing instead to sell it shortly after the exhibition. It was heavily damaged during the Second World War, but at least the exterior has been largely restored to its original state. Joseph Maria Olbrich House. Olbrich's own house was relatively cheap at 75,000 marks. The building had a red hip roof that continued down over the ground floor on the northern side. The house was heavily damaged during the Second World War, but was rebuilt in 1950 to 51. Although everything above the ground floor was completely changed, only the white and blue tiles on the facade was the original ones. Ludwig Habich's house. Also designed by Albrecht, it was the studio and residence of sculptor Ludwig Habich. After suffering serious damage during the Second World War, it was rebuilt in 1951 with certain changes in the details, but in accordance with the original plans. Hans Christiansen's house. Designed by Albrecht in accordance with painter Hans Christiansen's wishes. The artist and his family lived in the house for quite some time, even though Christiansen worked for most of the part outside of Darmstadt in the later years. The building was completely destroyed in World War II and was not reconstructed. A gap was left where it had stood, thereby also destroying the original symmetry of the area. Georg Keller's house. This house, known as Beaulieu, was erected for Georg Keller, according to the plans of Albrecht. Following its destruction in the war, it was rebuilt completely different. However, the most significant house of the first exhibition was the artist's studio. The Ernst Ludwig House, which is now the Museum of the Artists' Colony. Today, inside you can see the history of the colony and collections from all 4 exhibits. From artworks, silverware, furniture, and later exhibits of the changing architecture and the way of living in the city of Darmstadt. And if you want to know more about the museum, check out the description below for the link. All in all, the public attendance in the exhibition was large, but the feedback was mixed. Some accused Albrecht of being more of a decorator than an architect. Second exhibition, 1904. This exhibition featured almost only temporary constructions after the large financial losses of the first exhibition. The remaining members, Albrecht and Habich, had been joined at this time by 3 new members, Johann Vincent Siras, Daniel Greiner, and Paul Haustein. Most of the exhibits, such as the exhibition pavilions, restaurant, and concert pavilion, were built upon temporary site, except the group of 3 houses. 3 interconnected houses were built in 1903 to 4, according to the plans by Albrecht. The Blue House, Wood Gobbler House, and Grey House. The cost of each house and interior didn't exceed the 28,000 mark budget. The 3 houses were intended to demonstrate living possibilities for the middle classes. All 3 houses were enclosed by gardens, which merged into one another without separating fences. They were heavily damaged in World War II. The Grey House made way for a new construction while the other 2 were reconstructed with serious modifications. Sculptor Studio. Albrecht also designed an octagonal extension with connecting wing for the studio building. As a structural extension, it provided workspace for 2 sculptors, each with separate entrance as well as a small studio in the octagon. Today, it functions as a gift shop. Third exhibition, the 1908 Hesse State Exhibition for the Fine and Applied Arts. The third exhibition was open to the artists and craftsmen from Hesse to participate and display the potential of Hessian arts and crafts with ensuing products. Besides Albrecht, the colony also housed Albin Müller, Jakob Julius Stravogel, Joseph Emil Scheckendorf, Ernst Riegel, Friedrich Wilhelm Kluckens, and Heinrich Jobs at the time. The most important buildings of the major exhibition is the 48-meter-high wedding tower and exhibition building. The wedding tower. Aldrich crowned the cityscape with another visible monument and landmark. He had been occupied with the idea of a viewing tower as early as 1900. Yet it was only on the occasion of the marriage of the Grand Duke Ernest Ludwig to his second wife, Eleonore Solms zu Hohenzollern, that the project was funded. With the use of misfired pottery bricks in the facade and the window hinges placed above the corner, Aldrich already anticipated modern architectural elements of the 1920s. The exterior was decorated by Albin Müller's gilded clock, Heinrich Jobs' relief slab above the portal, and Kluckens' glass mosaic ornament at the portal, in a sundial with a text by Rudolf Binding. The interior artistic features of the tower were created by Fritz Hagenbart, the Grand Duke's room, Philipp Otto Schaffer, the Grand Duchess's room, and Friedrich Kluckens' entrance glass mosaic. Today, you can visit the wedding tower for a fee and go up the tower and see the view of the city. If you want to know more about it, check out the description below for the link. Exhibition building. The elevated position of the building is explained by the fact that it stands upon the water reservoir of 1808. Aldrich used existing technical construction methods to cancel the significant height difference on the three sites by embankments and concrete pergolas. Those cascade-like foliage enhances the effect of the architecture. It was opened as the building for the free arts, where Hessian painters displayed their works of art. Today, it houses the Institute for New Music and Music Education. The other buildings are the following. The Upper Hessian House. It was designed and largely furnished by Aldrich. It is an exhibition building for the products of the Upper Hesse's industry and crafts. Today, the Institute of New Music and Music Education is housed in the building. House of Sutter. The builder and architect Conrad Sutter designed the exterior and interior of the building. It was exhibited under the architect's own artistic responsibility against the protests of the jury, because of Sutter's planning, which has strong echoes of the traditional style and little of Art Nouveau elements. House Wagner Given. It was built for the contractor Wagner, and it was designed by the Dutch architect Johann Christoph Given. In the night of September 11, 1944, the building was massively damaged. In 1968, it was demolished and replaced by an apartment building. There is also a small housing colony. On the east slope of the Mathildenhohe, a small housing estate was shown as a contribution to the housing of the less affluent sections of the population. Most of those buildings were either temporary exhibits, while some were moved and rebuilt in the eastern part of the city. Fourth Exhibition, 1914. For this exhibition, Müller, Kluckens, Jobs were joined by Fritz Oswald, Emanuel Joseph Margold, Edmund Corner, and Bernhard Hottger. This time, Müller constructed 8 apartment buildings, of which only a studio building survived the bombing of 1944. He also created a large water basin known as the Lily Basin, below the Russian chapel, completing the ensemble Mathildenhohe. In addition, the basin's glazed floor tiles take up the motifs and colors of the chapel's decor. The tiles also form a colorful pattern of lilies, which is where it got its name. Plane Tree Grove. It was laid out around 1830 and has been preserved to this day, with its regularly planted and cut trees as part of the park. In 1911, Bernhard Hottger designed the grove artistically for the 4th exhibition. He used his commission to develop a total work of art with sculptures, relief walls, and inscriptions, in which the theme of becoming and passing away, the cycle of all life, found its artistic expression through the symbol of water. Garden Pavilion or the Swan Temple. 8 white glazed ceramic reliefs with swan motifs adorn the columns. Originally designed as a small gargoyles, the beaks were intended to drain rainwater from the roof. Today, this function is fulfilled by separate, more protruding pipes. For conservation reasons, the roof of the temple, formerly covered with small ceramic shingles, was replaced by a simple copper roof in 1987. The pavilion combines neoclassical quotations with Art Nouveau style. The Lion Gate. The lion sculptures was made of cast concrete, standing on 6 artificial stone double columns. The sculptures were popularly called sneezing hedgehogs. After the end of the exhibition, the main portal was dismantled and stored. It was later moved to Rosenhohe, where Müller created a new set of columns. It can still be seen there today. The exhibition closed prematurely when war broke out in August 1914. Work on the colony came to an abrupt end with the abdication of the Grand Duke in 1918. Unfortunately, it was officially dissolved in 1929. The architecture, which apparently was no longer valued in the 1920s and 30s, as well as the landscape complexes, disappeared beneath an overgrowth of vegetation. In 1963, as a result of the growing city, many of the surviving design were removed from the park and was destroyed. But despite its brief period of operation, the Mathildenhohe remains a valuable architectural ensemble. It was finally renovated in the 1980s and 1990s, and today it is the center of the Art Nouveau and is currently on the official list of the UNESCO World Heritage Site recommendations. All in all, the total artwork of the Darmstadt Artist Colony, with its buildings, gardens, and works of art spanning the years 1901 to 1914, creates not only a unique and simple, testifying to experimental creativity, but also an incomparable document of the architectural and artistic renewal of the dawn of modernism, inspired by the international reform movement of the early 20th century. Comparable to the other artist colonies founded around the same time, the Mathildenhohe's artists' main focus was not the experience of nature as a means of renewal in painting, but instead, the exhibition stated an all-encompassing claim to influence the life of modern man through art. Grand Duke Ernst Ludwig deliberately embraced the arts and crafts movement that developed in response to the industrialization process. He drew on it in order to incorporate reformist notions of living experimental architecture and innovative design to the highest artistic order in the Mathildenhohe project. The 4 exhibitions were carefully a representation of a newly conceived, live world, unprecedented innovations that attracted much attention and were to have a determining influence on later developments in architecture and design.
I hope you enjoy our tour of the artist colony here in Darmstadt. Till next time, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye. So guys, if you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and feel free to comment. Hit the bell, hit the bell, hit the bell, hit the bell. Come on guys, hit the bell.
For notifications. And don't forget to share!
And